can restart this. So thank you and apologies for the delay. So the WBA is a global nonprofit organization headquartered in Amsterdam. We assess and rank the world's most influential companies on their contributions to the SDGs. Our benchmarks are all free and publicly available for all stakeholders to measure and compare company performances on the SDGs. We identify 7 informations that are most important to place our society, planet, and economy on a sustainable and resilient path. Some companies are included in more than one benchmark due to the nature of their business and their influence in the sector. And in total, we assessed 2,000 world's most influential companies based on the 7 systems, and our next launch of all data and results for all 7 transformations will take place in January 2026. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here's a snapshot of all the 2,000 companies that we assess. They are headquartered in 83 companies, representing 46% of global GDP. They have a vast footprint, operating in nearly every country in the world. They are responsible for 54% of global energy-related emissions, employed 99 million people directly, and are linked to hundreds of millions of more people through their global supply chain. This highlights the incredible influence these 2,000 companies hold and the potential they have to shape a more sustainable and equitable future for everyone. Next slide, please. So one of the questions that we get asked a lot is how are benchmarks results used? All the data from our benchmark is free and publicly available for all stakeholders. Companies use our benchmarks for roadmaps and gap analysis and to compare themselves with peers or learning from leading practices. Investors refer to our data for individual and collective engagement with companies. They use them as a basis for shareholder resolutions and risk identification for investment considerations. We also have governments and intergovernmental organizations using our data to signal policy gaps and track policy impacts. Civil society organizations and media use our benchmarks to monitor corporate sustainability performance, incorporate our data into research, campaigns, and awareness building efforts. So our data is used widely by different stakeholders for multiple purposes. Next slide, please. Thank you. Let me now walk you through the assessment process for FSV 2025. Throughout the rest of 2025, we will be working with a research partner to collect data and conduct preliminary assessments once companies publish key sustainability reports. After the initial data collection, WBA analysts will review and conduct a quality check of the data received. Once we have reviewed all the data, we will then send you a draft assessment for your review and feedback. You will have a 4-week engagement period to share your input with us. After the engagement period, we will review your valuable feedback and integrate it into our assessments, followed by another round of consistency checks. Once all of that is done, our goal is to publish the final assessments, including rankings and scores, in the first quarter of 2026. Going forward, we will be maintaining the same biannual rhythm for all 2,000 companies. Assessments of companies will be in odd years, for example, 2025, and then the next one will be in 2027, where publication of results and analysis will be in the following year or even years such as 2026 and then 2028. That concludes the introduction to WBA and the overview of the research process. I'll now hand it over to my colleague Pernilla, who will walk us through the scope and methodology of the FSV. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ni, for the introduction. So I will now, after this contextual part, provide some details on the financial system benchmark specifically. So I will focus on changes compared to previous year. But if you have questions afterwards, if you are less familiar with what we did last year, you are of course welcome to have more general questions as well. But just to recap, so we are from the financial system perspective assessing 400 financial institutions. The largest share is banks, that's 37%. We have about equal shares of asset owners and asset managers, around 22-23%, and then insurance companies at just below 1/5 at 18%. We assess listed companies, governmental-owned companies, and private companies. The listed companies are the majority, and then on 56%, and then equal shares of government and private companies, government-owned and private-owned companies. And you have this map so you can see more in detail how those companies are spread out, and we will share the slides after. So while the focus of this session will be on the blue part here, the financial system transformation, just wanted also to mention our broader assessment. So a change this year in the process is that previously we have had an asynchronous rate of assessing different types of organizations and in different benchmarks, but we have now gone into a more synchronous mode starting this year, where we assess all the 2,000 companies in parallel, which gives better opportunities to do broader assessment across the 2,000. Since before, we assess the core social indicators, which is an integrated part of the financial system benchmark across all 2,000 companies. And also we did perform gender assessments, which you, if you participated or were engaged with our benchmark last year, are familiar with. And that is also performed across the 2,000. There is a specific recording on that if you want to go into details of that. Then we have what's happening this year, which is an expansion from how we worked previously, is that all the 2,000 companies will also be assessed by our climate team with regards to their transition plans. So that is the ACT core methodology. They will also be assessed with regards to just transition. And when we talk about the just transition assessment, that is focused on just transition primarily in relation to own staff and or own employees and workers and also suppliers. So that is less on the financial side, which we are looking at within the financial system benchmark. There is a webinar for those wanting to have further details on those, which is recorded. So there is a link here. So today's presentation will focus on the financial system benchmark. When you get your feedback, you will get the assessments of financial system benchmark, including the social benchmark, the core social indicators and the gender indicators at the same time, while ACT core and just transition is shared separately at a later point. Something which is also new in relation to the planning for this year is that we for those that recall the process last year, we had a common engagement date for all companies. This year, we are looking into when you are supposed to publish your key reports with regards to sustainability and have settled individual starts of assessment in relation to that, and the engagement period will also happen at different points in time, depending on your publishing dates. But the latest reports that we will consider will be those published the 31st of August in this round. So the financial system benchmark, if you are familiar with it from last year, it's quite similar. We have the same measurement areas with the same weights applied. We have the same scoring logic as before. And we also performed just incremental updates of indicators and elements, and that's what I will present here today. But for those that are less familiar, that means that strategy, governance, and stewardship are representing 20% of the benchmark total max score. And then we have 45% for the social part, respecting individuals and society, and 35% for respecting climate and nature. This means that we have in both those areas, we have divided them into the more finance-related part and the more operation-related part. So the responsible business conduct here is the core social indicators that is equal for all benchmark. It represents 20%. and then the corresponding more footprint related part here is on 10%, and the reason is that it's fewer elements in indicators. So the financial, the parts that focus on financial activities is this one. So it's about 50% of the overall benchmark. And here is a full list of indicators. I will not present them here because I will come back to them measurement area by measurement area. But overall, we have the same indicators as last year with one change, which is the commitment to remedy, but we have some changes in elements in relation to those, but I will go through that in further detail. But here's a summary. If you look at those slides later, we are just to mention on the very nitty-gritty level that we are renaming the labels of our indicators. So they will be A, B, C, D, E. It should probably not have a large effect, but if anyone sees a confusion around that, you should be aware of that. So just to give an indicator example for those that are less familiar with what it could look like. So we have an indicator text, we provide a rationale, and then we divide the indicator into the elements, and each element is assessed separately from each other. Before any weighting takes place on the measurement area level, we have every indicator as such is scoring 1 point, and those points are divided equally between the elements within that indicator. The number of elements changes between different indicators. We also use scoring guidelines that we publish, where we specify what is required to get a met for the individual points, and that is also something you can refer to in the feedback process. So with that, I will go into the details of the changes. We have a small legend here saying that yellow denotes a new indicator, green a new or changed element, and blue a modification in criteria. Looking at the first measurement area, the strategy, governance, and stewardship, we could see that we have changes in elements and a bit on the scoring guidance for the first three indicators, which is about impact, materiality, and strategy, targets and plans, and governance and incentives. We also have an update on the responsible lobbying and political engagement fundamental, which is a core social indicator. So for the first three, where we have made some restructuring of elements and updates of criteria, that is done so that we will get more alignment between our different benchmarks to be able to draw conclusions at the level of the 2,000 organizations that we assess. One notable change is that last year we assessed the target progress. This year we more check that the target progress is reported, but we don't check the progress as such for this in this governance theme. However, in other measurement areas where we are asking for specific targets, we are still assessing progress. We have 3 new elements to align with other benchmark, which is consultation with experts and those impacted in the materiality assessment process. It's allocation of resources to implement the strategy in the strategy indicator, and it's sustainability expertise of highest governance body. So we check the actual expertise there. So these 3 are new topics that we have included. From the perspective of the 5th indicator, the core social indicator on lobbying, that is now covering financial and in-kind political contribution disclosure. and that is covering both direct and indirect contributions. So there is a change of element due to this. The next measurement area, B, financing climate and nature protection and restoration. Here we have changes in elements for the first topic, which is approach to fossil fuel and high emitting sectors. It's in relation to climate engagement alignment. And then we also have a changing wording for resources for nature protection and restoration, though that is not changing how it's scored. In relation to the first one, we have added a separate element for high emitting sectors so that they are addressed alongside fossil fuel sectors. That was something that we did not look into last year. That was intended to be part of this indicator, but it was not assessed. So we have split so that we can look at fossil fuel sectors and high emitting sectors, other high emitting sectors specifically. And that means high emitting sectors in commonly understood as cement, power generation, steel, automotive, aviation, shipping, and buildings. So any provision of product, service, and capital in relation to those and disclosure regarding that. When it comes to climate engagement, we saw that we wanted more granularity because, as you may recall from last year, we have looked at this from the perspective of 1.5C alignment and engagement on specifically on that. But we wanted also to have a lower threshold for those engaged, or to be able to distinguish those engaging on climate or to drive climate in a positive direction from those that don't engage. So that's why we added a new element to have a bit more granularity there in scoring, because we can see that there are obviously financial institutions that do engage, but not specified as 1.5C alignment. And then for resource for nature protection and restoration, we have just changed the language from nature positive to use this language of nature protection and restoration, because nature positive is a concept that is a bit controversial in some circles, and it's also not aligned with language used in our nature benchmark, but it's same criteria. So that, but just to avoid confusion regarding this one. For the third category, C, environmental footprints, we have a bit of alignment with the ACT Core methodology that the climate team is now applying to all 2,000 companies. So where we are looking at targets and inventories, they are looking at targets and inventories as a sort of entrance criteria for a deeper assessment of transition plans. So we have reorganized these elements a bit, or the corresponding elements a bit, to be able to share knowledge between the two types of assessment. But as previously, we only accept absolute targets, but we are widening out a bit so that we are taking on board SBTi approved absolute and 1.5C aligned targets. Next is the inclusive finance measurement area D. Here we have two indicators where we have changes. So I start with the smaller one from the bottom, the just transition, risk mitigation and stewardship. And it's a smaller change because we have just merged two elements. So the element on workers and stakeholders has been removed, but it's considered a criterion for when checking for if there is a process. So it's more a reorganization of evidence, let's say. The bigger change is in relation to the assessment of resources for low and lower middle income countries that we have tried to refine a bit. We had last year, we only had an element that focused on avoiding divestments, but we had no element that focused on the positive contribution and strengthening those markets, either through provision of product, services, or capital, or in other ways supporting the buildup of those markets. So we have added a new element for that. Also, the feedback we got last year was that the element on avoiding divestments did not really make sense for financial institutions that are fully related to those markets, and also for development finance institutions. So we are considering this element now non-applicable for those. And then finally, we have the fifth measurement area, the responsible business conduct, which includes the majority of our core social indicators. The core social indicators have undergone some review more broadly. So there are incremental changes of several indicators and elements. I will not go into the details of those, but they are further elaborated in the methodology documents. But those are more tweaks than substantial changes, but refinements in wording and the clarification of criteria and so forth. What is more important maybe is that there is one new indicator is on remedy. So it's about the commitment to remedy. Instead, another indicator has been taken away, which was the indicator on human rights engagement. However, these topics are still assessed, but they are included in the indicators regarding identification of human rights risks and impact, assessing those, and also integrating and acting on human rights risks and impact assessment. So there is an engagement element that has been added to those. So that concludes the presentation, and these are the changes that we are seeing this year. And will soon publish the methodology document, and that we will also, as before, have a supplement where we make a element by element comparison between last year's methodology and this year's. So thank you, and we will now open up for questions, and we will also stop the recording.
Thank you so much, Pernilla, for the presentation.